Hi girls and boys. Today we're going to talk about the events that happened on Friday, on the day that Jesus was crucified. Now, on the day of Jesus' crucifixion, a lot of things happened, but we're only going to focus on a few things, otherwise it would be a very long story. So we'll just focus on a few things. So yesterday we ended where the Lord Jesus was arrested in the Garden of Gethsemane. Now, as they led him away, they brought him away, right? The disciples, they all ran away. And they took him to the palace, to the house of Caiaphas, the high priest. And that's where Lord Jesus was going to be put on trial. That was on Thursday. But the whole asking the Lord Jesus questions, the whole interrogation took all the way up until Friday morning. That took all night. The Lord Jesus, he didn't sleep that night. People were falsely accusing him, saying Jesus did things that he didn't do, saying all sorts of terrible things about Jesus. And eventually they said he is guilty. So Lord Jesus was then also on Friday morning brought before the ruler, Pontius Pilate. And eventually it was decided Lord Jesus was going to be crucified. What they did is they brought the Lord Jesus to a place, to Golgotha, where he would be crucified. They hung the Lord Jesus on a cross between two criminals, right? Two other criminals were there. We'll wait for the clock. They took off the coat of Jesus, they put a crown of thorns on his head, and on a sign above where the Lord Jesus was crucified, it said, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Now, they didn't say this because they wanted to be serious. They thought they would poke fun at the Lord Jesus and that they would make fun and mock of the Jews, right? The Romans, they did this. As Lord Jesus was hanging there, there were a lot of people who were watching because they wanted to make fun of the Lord Jesus, because they just shook their heads. But there were also some people standing in the distance watching, people who loved the Lord Jesus. There were women, a lot of women who loved Lord Jesus who were there watching, as well as the disciple John. The disciple John was there for some time as well. But after a while, the disciple John, he went home because the Lord Jesus from the cross, he said, "John, do you see my mother standing over there?" The mother of the Lord Jesus was also there, Mary. He says, "John, I want you to take Mary home, okay? And I want you to take care of her for me." So John, after a while, left with the mother of the Lord Jesus. Now, after about 6 hours, the Lord Jesus died. When the Lord Jesus died, the curtain in the temple, it ripped in half from the top to the bottom, which was kind of an unusual event, right? Because when something rips, it starts to get a little frayed on the bottom and slowly the rip goes up. Now, the curtain temple ripped from the top to the bottom, which meant the temple was open. The Lord Jesus has died. People didn't need to offer sacrifices anymore. The Lord Jesus has died. The greatest, the best sacrifice that could ever happen had happened. The Lord Jesus had died. What also happened is there was an earthquake. The ground was shaking. There were graves that opened. Some people who had died already, people who loved God, they rose from the dead and they went into the cities to preach to the people who lived there. Now, when a Roman soldier, the Roman centurion, when he saw this happening, he was amazed. He feared. He said, "Truly, this was the King of Israel. This was Jesus," right? He believed then that Jesus was the Son of God. After Lord Jesus had died, there was a man called Joseph, and he came from Arimathea, a very rich man, and he owned land close to where Lord Jesus died. And he asked Pilate, Pontius Pilate, the ruler, he said, "May I have the body of the Lord Jesus? I would like to bury Jesus." Pontius Pilate, he gave over the body of the Lord Jesus to him. So what Joseph of Arimathea, what he did is he wrapped the body of the Lord Jesus in some clean linen, some clean cloths. And he buried the Lord Jesus in a brand new grave, a grave where nobody had laid before. Now, graves in the Bible times are not like graves where we bury people in holes in the ground. They made sepulchres, right? So in the rocks, they cut out tombs. There were sepulchres, sort of like little rooms made in the rocks. Now he had an empty sepulcher, a brand new one, where he put the Lord Jesus. He rolled the rock in front of it and he left. Now while while Joseph of Arimathea was doing this with the body of the Lord Jesus, there were some people watching. There were some women who loved the Lord Jesus very much, who just couldn't stand to stay away from the Lord Jesus. They wanted to be close to Jesus. So they followed Joseph of Arimathea. They wanted to see where he buried Jesus. Now once they noticed where he buried Jesus, they say to each other, we're going to come back, and then we're going to properly bury the body of the Lord Jesus. We're going to wrap him in spices and put more cloth around him to give Lord Jesus a proper burial. And that all happened on Friday. Now there are many more things, of course, that happened, but we'll just focus on that for now. You might be thinking, well, if my disciple wasn't John that I'm writing about, I don't know much to write about. Well, think about maybe what those women would have gone and told those other disciples, right? Or what the disciple that you chose, what he would have heard from someone who was there. So if you, for example, chose Peter or James, what you could then do is you could say, well, I heard that, and then what you want to write about. Because I'm sure that a lot of people also talked about what had happened. Yeah? I hope that makes sense, and I hope you can figure out what to write about. You should. There's lots to write about. Your writing you're doing is good. Don't forget detail as much as you can in those few lines. Periods, right? Neat writing. And then we have one more story tomorrow, and we'll do Saturday and Sunday together. Have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.